The ES Newman is traveling down the coast from Rhode Island, and it's got a crew, an interesting crew, the captain, his wife, his 3-year-old son, and 6 others were on board. And they run into a hurricane, and the captain decides to ground the ship because he knew if he had any chance of being saved, that the United States Life-Saving Service did exist.
On the night of October 11th, 1896, the ES Newman ran aground on the Outer Banks in a fierce hurricane. From the crow's nest at the Pea Island Life-Saving Station, a lookout glimpsed a weak light to the south. The station's keeper, Richard Etheridge, gave the order to launch a rocket. As its glowing embers cascaded back to Earth, a faint red light answered in the distance. Etheridge considered the problem. Then he asked for volunteers. Surfmen Theodore Meekins and Stanley Wise donned their cork life preservers while other crewmen tied a length of rope between them, then attached a line held by the crew on the beach. The others watched as the 2 men disappeared into the churning sea.
The Pea Island Station was one of about 29 life-saving stations in the United States Life-Saving Service that existed here on the Outer Banks. Think of the United States Life-Saving Service as the predecessor to the United States Coast Guard. A lot of people don't realize or really kind of think about the importance of the service, because they had no modern technology, and the way people traveled and the way goods traveled at that time was, primarily by sea. And it's called the graveyard of the Atlantic. That's the phrase that was given to this area because there were literally thousands of shipwrecks that occurred. It was really one of the most dangerous areas in the world.
As they made their way to the ES Newman, surfmen Theodore Meekins and Stanley Wise ducked violent waves and dodged debris from the schooner. When they reached the sandbar that held the vessel, the rescuers were able to pass the line to the crew, and the rescue of the first passenger was made. 3-year-old Tommy Gardner, son of the captain. Over the next hour, members of the Pea Island crew took turns making the treacherous journey back into the tumbling seas and rain-slashed darkness until everyone had been saved. The wife of the captain, 6 crew members, and finally, Captain Sylvester Gardner. Unlike other life-saving crews along the eastern seaboard that were routinely honored with gold medals for rescues, the surfmen at Pea Island received no recognition for their actions. And with that, their collective act of bravery slipped beneath the waves of time. So too did the extraordinary life story of their leader, Richard Etheridge, and the legacy of an all-black crew that manned a single remote life-saving station for 67 years and helped save over 200 lives. As it turns out, stories like ships have a way of disappearing in the graveyard of the Atlantic.
So Ethridge and his crew, being, the only known all-black crew in the history of the United States Life-Saving Service, is really an important thing to think about, particularly at the time it occurred, and when you think of his background. Richard Etheridge grew up enslaved on Roanoke Island.
When Roanoke Island was captured by the Union forces in 1862, Richard Etheridge joined the Africa Brigade of the Union forces and went on to fight in the New Market Heights battle in Virginia as a sergeant, the highest rank attainable by a black soldier. After the war, he resumed his life on the Outer Banks, ultimately joining a black and white crew of surfmen, known as a checkerboard crew, at the Pea Island Life-Saving Station. He served as the lowest member of the team, number 6 surfman. In all, 19 different black men worked at life-saving stations along the North Carolina coast, all of them restricted by their race to the lowest ranking positions.
And in 1880, he was selected as the keeper of this life-saving station. And the circumstances that led to his selection are kind of interesting as well.
A series of preventable maritime disasters along North Carolina's Outer Banks resulted in an inspection that uncovered gross incompetence and ineffective management. The 2 superintendents conducting the inspection made a bold proposal to remove the keeper at the Pea Island Station and replace him with a man they believed to be the most qualified to help restore the reputation of the life-saving service, Richard Etheridge. It was an unprecedented move that challenged accepted racial hierarchies in the South. Etheridge was sworn in, and the white members of the station resigned in protest. Those positions were filled by black surfmen, and Pea Island became an all-black station.
There were other stations that did, heroic acts as well, but you see men from those stations able to wear gold medals on their chests. They were awarded medals in their time. So Etheridge and his crew, never lived to know of this honor that they received.
Thanks to the research of 2 graduate students in the early 90s, the heroic exploits of the men at the Pea Island Station were rescued from the deep. As a result, the Coast Guard posthumously presented the men of the Pea Island Life-Saving Station a gold life-saving medal in 1996.
But just think of it, do you think anyone would care that this crew is an all-black crew that ends up saving them? So I'm sure they were absolutely elated. As a matter of fact, the signboard of the ES Newman, which is hanging in this museum, as gratitude for being saved, the captain of the ship, Captain Gardner, gives Ethridge the signboard of the ES Newman. And the ES Newman was a total loss.
These were men who deserved to be honored, remembered, and understood. To learn more, read my story in the November 2025 issue of Our State magazine, and subscribe to our YouTube channel for more videos just like this one.